Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Manav Jethani. I'm the host of the podcast Simply Being by Niwwrd. And today with us we have a very special guest who has been in the design industry for a long, long time. He has traveled from Europe to
Be
Asia.
careful.
And Mr. Simon Loasby, would you like to please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, hi, Simon Loasby here, everybody. And the noise you can hear in the background is the finishing time in Hyundai. That's the noise we get when time's over. So we're into overtime now. But yeah, I'm Simon Loasby. I'm head of Hyundai Design, and I live in South Korea now. And as Manav said, yeah, I've been in the industry for a bit of time now. It goes very fast. I guarantee you. You'll suddenly realize how long have I been in this? Been in this game for quite a while, and yeah, enjoying it still every day. Every day's big challenges, and I work in the main studio in Namyang in South Korea, where we have about 400 people. That's between Hyundai that I'm responsible for and the Genesis brand, a smaller Genesis team here. And of course, we have studios all over the world, I think 7 different countries, and from Japan all the way around through the time zones to California. And we have a lot of fun. We're doing a lot of stuff. I was just talking to Manav before the recording started how if you're not absolutely in love with it, you would never do it because it's so difficult and so challenging, and it's challenging every day. So yeah, I'm Simon. Hopefully, there's some people interested and listening.
No, trust me, Mr. Simon. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are interested to hear your views and opinions about some of the things that we will talk about in this podcast. So let's start with something called as brand design or brand language or the design
Yeah,
philosophy of a particular
yeah,
brand.
yeah.
Because as far as I'm concerned, this thing originated in Europe. I think it was Germany or UK where the brands such as
Mm,
BMW, Mercedes, as well
yeah,
as Jaguar and Rolls-Royce, they established their design language quite a while ago and they have been sticking to it and improving it every model, every year after
yeah,
year.
yeah.
So, could you tell us how it has influenced brands globally to establish their own design language and how it could serve as an advantage to their particular range of models as well as the customer experience that they will get?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. There are different approaches from different brands about how they create a consistency across their products. And uh, depending upon how big you are as a brand or how small you are, there are different ways of doing that. I guess the Europeans were probably have probably been the strongest at being just so consistent and so recognizable. The big German companies, the British companies, really standing out of iteration after iteration and staying consistent. It helps your recognizability. It helps, I guess, people buying into, let's call it the club of what you're buying into, what that club stands for, and associating yourself with that. And so, in some respects, for designers, then you willingly go into a brand which has a less open field of research because there's a specific direction they're going in, and of course you challenge that as designers. We have to challenge all the time. There's other ways of doing it, which is the way Hyundai does it, which way we do it. We look at a different type of consistency. We have, what shocks me, the amount of cars we're working on together as a team, and we have 600 people around the world. Um, if they were all under one umbrella, a very tight design umbrella for the brand, it would. There's so many. I'm sure we'll get into that discussion. Well, they're all looking the same, and how do we give more differentiation? And so instead of asking the customers to come and join and come closer to us and be part of our brand and be so buy into that club, we said, okay, we're going to move the club closer to you. So we're going to take the club closer to your lifestyle. I'm not saying one way is right or wrong. It's just this fits for us. That we have cars where we take the typology of a vehicle, the silhouette and its use case closer to the customer's lifestyle and what they'll be using the car for. So you don't necessarily drive one knowing it's going to look like your dad's car. It's a different lifestyle. It's for somebody else. And that's we have, but then we have a consistency on a different level. So our design philosophy is about let's call it the Hyundai look is like chess pieces from European chess. If you look at the chess pieces on a board, you have the rook or the knight or the bishop or the king or the queen. They all have different roles to play. They have different moves on the board. And quite simply, we see our cars like that too. They have different roles to play in the portfolio. They have a different lifestyle to get close to. And so our work is to really identify the user's profile, what's happening, what the lifestyle is of the customer, and then match that with our typology, which is the first hit. That's the top half of a chess piece. If you look at the base of the chess piece, there's the consistency for us. That's what connects them all. You know they're all in the same team because you recognize on a different level of consistency. We've chosen that route. Um, Not saying the other routes are right or wrong. We think it fits for us though. And that route for us is if you look at the Ioniq cars, the Ioniq 5, Ioniq 6, and the 7 show car, the detailing is the connection point, the visual connection. That's the storytelling that connects the cars. Not that the overall looks so familiar. Overall is radically different. But when you get up close, you realize, oh, that must be an Ioniq because it has these pixel lighting. And the pixels are our connection point. And of course, the pixels represent, if you go back to the 70s, the first electronic goods, the pixel, the first computer game I ever played was Pong, which was a pixel going back and forth, which represented a tennis ball. And that modernize that to today, that's Minecraft. My daughter was on a bus and called me because her friend said, "My God, look at that car down there," and it was Ioniq 5. And she said, "Look at those, it looks like Minecraft lights." And we deliberately said that's our consistency. It's instantly recognizable. Ioniq 6 now has a different interpretation of pixels. And that will come on Ioniq 7, which will be coming out next year as well. That'll be the detailing, which that's our philosophy that connects visually our products. Now, brand design, I don't want to get into the brand design, but what we represent in design terms, how we're designing the brand, is to get close to the lifestyle of the customer. So the customer gets into our car and thinks, oh, these guys thought about me. As you approach the car, as you get into the car, it's like, oh, things fall into place perfectly and they just work really well. And so, yeah, I guess that's how different brands can stand for different things. And that's the way we at Hyundai are doing it. And we're sort of thrilled that last week Ioniq 6 was awarded a World Car of the Year. Oh man, three awards. I mean, and I have so much respect for the designers and the cars we were in competition with. Some amazing stuff. It's phenomenal how the judges um, picked Ioniq 6, and Ioniq 5 the year before won three awards as well. And so we've surprised a lot of people. They thought the follow up to Ioniq 5 would be Ioniq 6's Ioniq 5 with the trunk. Not at all. It's a very different typology. It goes for a different consumer set, and that's how the design then connects on that detail level in terms of pixels.
No, yeah, that is right. Because when it comes to cars, we have seen the European brands, they have a special design language on the exterior where you
Yeah.
can instantly notice the brands. But
Mm.
Hyundai's approach has been different. They have focused more
Yeah.
towards customer experience, where what customer would like to have, what is closer to them, which would
Yeah.
still be like a center approach for Hyundai. And yes, as you talked about, I did receive the news that Ioniq 6 got three car awards as well as the World Car of the Year. Congratulations on that.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. I wasn't there. Sang-Up Lee was there, and I know Derek Jenkins was there. I'm not sure the Land Rover guys were there, but Lucid and Range Rover, these are amazing cars.
Yeah, yeah.
Really high quality cars, and for Ioniq 6 to win the design award as well, it's just an absolute thrill for us and the whole team here at Hyundai. And what we're doing. And I actually have one at the moment. I have a top spec Ioniq 6 I've been driving up and down to Seoul in and over the weekend. And it really changes the street scene. It's a whole different, and there's just not a car like that. And that's what's so exciting. It's scary because when you're designing a car, you're going on a journey of unknown. Now, when you're working for a brand with a very tight design philosophy, then you kind of got a safety net because you're fitting those pieces together and you know what you're kind of doing. And every now and again, you make a big jump forward for the brand, but we're doing it on every car, which yeah, it's a real testament to the design team. You know, you've got the guys. We all work together. We've had these discussions. We've had these arguments. We've had the blood, sweat, and tears, and it's not easy. Like where we started, it's tough stuff. But at the end, when that awards ceremony took place last week, and I got some bloggers writing to me saying, "Well done." I didn't even get the news yet, and the bloggers told me about it. I was like, "Whoa, what happened?" And it's, I guess, a testament to the whole team's work, the whole company's work, changing radically how Hyundai is perceived.
Yeah, no, no. Yeah, as you said, because the journey is too long when it comes to starting the project, basically just from one idea and then making it a manufactured product. It's a long journey. Um, and let's
Let me
stick with
let
the
me just butt in on there. When you say it's too long, um, it takes good stuff takes time. If you watch the Guinness advert, good
yeah,
things come to those who wait. Quality takes time.
yeah,
Execution takes time. If you're as a young designer, you're not prepared to knuckle down and finish the job, then this isn't the job for you. Because
no,
it's difficult and it's fighting for millimeters and negotiating for millimeters. And then your boss will come in the room and say, no, change that. Take it on the chin. Get up and do the next one.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a tough ground to be here.
It
That
is.
that I've started to experience now when I'm just in college. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna get much tougher later in the
It's going to
years.
keep going. It doesn't get easier, and it's
You know,
always fun though. It's always fun. The delight in getting it right, and the thrill of seeing it, and then seeing it driving and seeing the prototypes and the whole. But it takes time, and you've got to communicate with all kinds of different people, negotiate. You have to understand every section. I worked many years ago for a guy called Dirk van Brakel, a hugely
yes.
talented designer. Dirk was, I learned so much from him when he came to Bentley. And I remember him saying, show me this section. Don't, nothing changes until we see the section. And I stuck with me. I say exactly the same. Thank you, Dirk, if you're watching this. I say the same thing here. So the guy said, no, nothing changes. Guys, if you tell me that's going to change because engineering doesn't work because of this, show me the section, I'll believe it. But I'm not going to move it until we see and analyze the technology that we're trying to house, where the issues are, the detail section, because we can nearly always find a way around it and find a way of improving it technically so we get the design solution. That's why it's called design, not styling. So
Yeah.
thank you, Dirk, if you're watching.
All right. So let's stick with the Ioniq brand of Hyundai,
Yeah,
where it has recently blown up into a very global brand. We have seen
yeah,
cars going to US, to Europe, to India,
yeah,
and what specifically I want to talk about is the Ioniq 5 because it has been
yeah,
a huge hit. It has hit various markets. And since you
yeah.
mentioned that Hyundai has a lot of design studios around the world, do you
Yeah.
think Ioniq 5 has to be changed a little bit based on the market or the region it is trying to go for example, India or
Yeah.
China or Japan?
I think what you have to look at is the lifestyle of the consumer and have a
Mhm.
look at the consumers and look at the sort of you become an anthropologist studying how lifestyle is changing, how connectivity is changing. I see immediately in connectivity, people are connecting to different apps, have different needs, countries have different digital networks effectively. So, on one thing, don't only think of the hardware, think of hardware and the software. And if I look at the lifestyle of consumers who are into Ionic 5, there's a lot of overlap around the world for that kind of product. There may be some small change areas that we make for certain either legal or taste differences in color and trim specifically. But for Ionic 5 itself, the main architecture of the vehicle, I don't see any need for a big change region to region. The level of positive feedback that we've had from every region has been phenomenal, and that is a testament to if you like, the how the car jumps generations. I mean, for our like my generation, go to the 70s and think of those amazing Italian like edgy cars. It's kind of it's the rebirth of the pony to that extent. But you come to the 80s generation, and yeah, there's kind of a DeLorean feeling to it. You come to the 90s and 2000s now, and it's Minecraft and it's digital. It's jumping generations of attractiveness, and I think those generations, especially when we get to the digital generations, around the world are so similar because the internet has connected so much. People are so there in the same world, being inspired by the same stuff, that I don't think it needs big changes region to region. And that's being borne out by the sales across the world, which is in each region. It's very coming across as very attractive car.
No, yeah, that is great. Congratulations on that. Because even I like to think that Ioniq 5 has stood out a lot compared to all of its competition because it had a
Yeah.
very distinct design approach. Since there was, no specific brand language or design language that it had from
And
Hyundai.
the language on that car is all about the story of the 1974 Giorgetto Giugiaro pony. And
Yes.
it's about taking that's we may be a young company compared to some of the Europeans. We're an old company compared to a lot of startups, and so we do have some sort of legacy that we can celebrate and shape the future with that legacy. And that's what we're doing with Ioniq 5. It connects perfectly into that, if you like, the hugely successful Italian design movement of the 70s, but bang up to date today with the proportions of it. I mean, a number of people sort of commenting Lancia Delta Integrale. I mean, who doesn't love that car?
Yeah.
And Giugiaro, I mean, what a guy. I mean, we had him here a few months ago in the studio in South Korea, Giorgetto, and it was just fantastic. 'Cause I knew him from a previous company, and having him here, meeting the chief engineer that he worked with on the first pony in the 70s, who'd not seen since then, was just amazing. And to have him give just down there is our design presentation hall, just right next to me. And for him to stand here and give a talk and a sort of two-way conversation with our young designers, our design teams, and for all of us, that was nothing beats Italian design of the 70s almost. It's like, wow.
No.
And so we connected to that movement with Ioniq 5. And it's so acceptable. And so it's such a strong statement, but somehow acceptable everywhere. And it does polarize. But I was in Manchester last summer, and thank you Hyundai UK for lending me Ioniq 5 whilst I was there. And I walked out to the car with some suitcases to drop them in the car. And there's this delivery guy there and his transit van, and the doors are open. He's got these boxes, and he stops and he looks at me getting into his Ioniq 5. He has no idea who I am, and he says, "Mate," he says, "that car is like a spaceship. It's amazing." And he picked up his boxes and went and did his deliveries. And I, wow. I wanted to film it. I said, I want him to say it again. I want to film it because he didn't have any clue who I was. And I was so grateful for that just simple compliment. And that's what we're trying to do. And it's a compliment for the whole team here. Everybody across all the teams that worked on that car, exterior, interior, color and trim team. And it's really exciting. It's really exciting when you get that far. It's like, wow, didn't expect that. And so, yeah, Ioniq 5, rock on. And we have the N version coming out in a few months. So
Ooh.
Ioniq 5N is coming out, and it's our first high performance EV,
Okay.
and it has a lot of performance. I mean, really, really serious performance, and I can't wait. It's just another redefinition, and how premium our brand is perceived to be these days, and how solid the brands. I'm driving the Ioniq 6 at the moment. It's just so solid, and it's only got 325 horsepower. And wait until the end version of that comes out, and we're all smiling.
No, no, I seriously can't wait because, yeah, high performance of these luxury cars would really take the next level. It comes to the same thing when you hear the AMG from Mercedes, the Mercedes is already luxury, but when the AMG comes out, it's just bonkers. And I hope this.
Yeah, it's something else, right? And I think I think I can happily say that our Ioniq 5N will be bonkers as well. I mean, it's just, I mean, the team. I mean, if they're watching this as well, I mean, Jay Gunn, if you watch this, I mean, you guys are awesome, and what you're pushing and what we're doing together, and we, of course, with the N division, we had the RN22E last year, which was what 600 horsepower Ioniq 6N as a rolling lab. We had I mean, the guys behind the N74, Chilship as we say in Korean. That's a 600 horsepower, 650 horsepower hydrogen fuel cell car. Just it's the our N division are just a bunch of bonkers guys who love performance, and we love that. So it's fun to work with them. And I mean, when June came to me last, oh well, it was December time, and he said, "Look, Simon, we need." No, it was September time. He said, "We need two cars." I said, "Okay, do you need two cars? Not one, two. Okay, something like this, something like this." I said, "Well, have you got any money?" And he said, "Yeah, we got money." I said, "Oh, okay." And you want them in 3 months' time? Yeah, we need design sign off in 3 months. I said, "Well, you have money. Let's give it a go." And that turned into 9 months later to driving full on hardcore, tire screeching, bonkers rolling labs, and that's what our N division does. So yeah, it's fun to work with those guys, and they really they are freaks, complete freaks, and they're just I love them dearly.
No, no, no. They are, because when it comes to the performance versions of these regular cars, they always try to get it to a certain level where it becomes totally crazy, and
Yeah.
you just want to have fun with it rather than driving it regularly or daily.
I mean, what I like about what we're doing now, it's the cars are. Ioniq 5N is a really grown-up performance car. It's a really high quality, high finish, no screech and rattles, high performance, real a level of performance. And if we think about when we were kids about, oh, it's all about the Golf GTI. This is going to a level which is just so far beyond the comprehension of performance from those days. It's just stunning. And so yeah, I can't wait. I mean, my name's down on the list as my next company car. So looking forward to that.
No, no, no. I'm pretty sure you cannot wait.
No, true, exactly.
All right. Another thing that I was curious about was UX design. Now, in the
Yeah,
recent years, it has increased a lot among the young aspirers to focus more on UI UX, as well as companies pushing to hire more UI UX designer and focusing it more on the interior side of cars.
yeah.
What I want to know is, how can we convert this user experience into what we call a customer experience, where customer would be interested to buy a car based solely on UI UX, or how it would make them, attracted towards that particular vehicle.
Yeah. I interesting. The whole I'm sure this is going to cause debate now, but I think it's a complete bollocks, this debate, because design is UX and UX is design. I've never seen any difference between them. And we talk about UX designer or aesthetic design. A designer is a design. You should be designing for the customer, and you're designing for interaction. You're designing, if you're just doing styling, that's a different thing. You're doing lovely shapes. But if you're designing, that's the integration of engineering, customer, aesthetic, technology, everything into one. And so even though my company has its UX department and so on, for me, it's just all design. And so, what are you trying to do with your design? Then you ask, how are you trying to connect to your customer with design? And there are two big blocks of that. One is the digital connection, one is the physical connection, and there's the overlap between the two. And so, for me, I mean, I just, if I were building my own company now, I would have a design department, and there would be specialist parts of the program always, which are of any project, which are where you're really getting into how the use of your product, whatever it is. How do you use it? How do you make that better? That's a normal design process. I've had enough of the discussion around it, and some people will probably write back and say, Simon doesn't know what he's talking about. But in this respect, if you do good design, you do good UX, you do good aesthetic. It's all mixed into one thing. And if you get it right, the customer gets into your vehicle or uses your product and thinks, they thought about me. They just do so. Oh, That was easy. And it's both digital, it's reducing the clicks, it's how you interact on a digital level, it's how you get in and out of the vehicle, it's how the lighting works to welcome you, the sound, how that works, it's how you when you get in the car, what do you do first? You put your phone somewhere. It's just in the perfect spot and it's well designed. And so I kind of frustrates me this design versus UX. All design is UX and all UX is design. So just do it well. And the customer should just say, "Oh, check that out. They've thought about me. It just works, and it's so simple. And if it's really good, it saves me time, and it takes the negatives away. You just take the barriers away of trying to fit something. One of my favorite examples is Lufthansa. If you're lucky enough or unlucky enough to fly business class on Lufthansa, they so all of a sudden somebody had put a little hook in front of you next to the screen, and it's a hook for your glasses. So when you go to sleep on a long flight, you hook your glasses there. I was like, at last, somebody's thinking about me. Otherwise, they're going to sit on the table, they'll fall on the floor, they're in the cup holder. No, they've got a hook for them. Everybody who knows me in Hyundai knows I'm a freak. I love hooks because I just putting stuff. And then, of course, COVID starts, and it becomes a mask hook as well. But that's just looking at customer experience. And you're
Yeah.
looking at anthropology, how lifestyle is changing. And as a team in a company, you need these different perspectives to make sure the user journey is comfortable and easy. And you just think, oh man, they thought about me. That's awesome. And we had a presentation recently here of an interior, and and we demonstrated to our chair, and we said, check that out. And he was like, wow, that was easy. There you go. We're just thinking about the sections, the detailed design section. Every designer is passionate about doing the whole thing. The little section is worth it too. You've no good just doing the whole big picture if you don't get into detail and execute it and get your product absolutely right. And so, with our both exterior and interior teams, what gives you the best feeling, the best touch, the best everything is design.
Yeah, that is true because everything that you're trying to design, whether it's on exterior, on the interior, or even the material that you use, it has to be perfectly comfortable with the customer. And it
Yeah.
at the end, in the result, it all comes down to the experience that the user or the customer is having.
And don't run around asking customers what do they like or what do they prefer,
Hmm.
or what would they want you to do. They're not going to tell you the answer. They're going to give you questions. They're going to give you their problems. Our job is to recognize what those issues are and solve them. But they're not going to come to you and say, "Oh, let's do it like this." But it's
Hmm.
important to just listen to those comments, and we as creatives create the future scenario and project because we're trying to answer things for 4 or 5 years time, and
Yeah,
and
yeah, that is true.
we're answering stuff where the customer hasn't thought of the question today. So how are they supposed to come up with the answer? They don't even know the question. And so it's up to us to project those questions into the future and come up with future answers where they just haven't got the question yet. So and that's fun and exciting. And across the world, different cultures have different ways of answering the question. And the great thing about having 7 studios around the world is we can see those different topics that happen. And when we have a collaboration with our European and American and Japanese studio, for example, on interiors, I love getting them to tell us what's the latest stuff you bring in your cars. Okay, I guarantee you, 3 years ago, the big change was the Clorox wipes from America. Big, fat tube of sanitizing hygienic wipes because of COVID. And that needs to go somewhere in the car.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting in your own country, nobody's going to tell you about that. But if his car goes to the States, you make that fit, everything else fits. That was the big difference. It's one of these things that pops up that becomes a cultural change in interior design of cars. And you have to have your ears open to be willing to listen to that and understand there's a difference.
No, yeah, that is true because every market or every region, even if it's differed by a country or even a small region inside a country, they have different requirements, they have different problems, and they need different solutions for that.
Yeah.
And I think globalization of your design studios really helps it a lot because you can then differ a cars just a little bit, make it variable, so that it would fit into the customer requirements. It would help
Yeah, I
them.
mean, you have different things you bring into the cars.
Yeah.
In the States you have the big gulp cup holder, And in China, you have the small tins, and there's a difference between. And Red Bull does the small tin thing, and so how do you fit them all in? So it's important for our why we luckily we have the regional teams to look at what the differences are, and we bring a basket of goods together and say what's the difference, and that's there is usually a big overlap with some detailed changes, and that if we could afford it with enough volume and complexity to have something special for a region, then oh yeah, why not?
No, yeah, that is cool. Also, if you look at the final user experience, for example, in my case in India, you would see
Yeah.
that people really like interior more than exterior. They need to have more features, more technology, and
Yes.
at a price point which is not too much for them, which they can
Yeah.
afford, and that really is a very unique problem just for India. And we have seen global brands trying to bring their studios in India just to solve this problem, just for this market,
Yeah.
and it has worked really well, especially in the case of Hyundai as well, because it
Yeah.
has won a lot
Yeah.
of awards in the last decade for the
Yes.
Indian auto sector.
Yeah. Well, it's something I mean, you're not alone, India, there with the young, particularly the massive young population you have in India, which are coming into middle class, earning money, wanting their first cars, highly digital.
Yeah.
If you look to other regions of the world, it's very similar. Down Southeast Asia, down in South
Hmm.
America, and similar cost value technology overlaps. And so our big challenge as a company like us is to get the volume up, so we can get cost down. And
Yeah.
that's why we have our new studio in Delhi now.
Yep.
If Troy watches this, Troy, thanks for being there, looking after it. Hyderabad, we have a small studio too. All our digital work down in Hyderabad, and so we've got the finger on the pulse there of in India we often talk about fashion equals high tech. If it's high tech, then it's fashionable, and that tech moves
Yeah.
on. Just have to be up to date, and that's what the team's telling me. Is I believe them, and so that's what we're doing. So you'll see as we develop our all our cars further for India and the emerging markets, how there's a big emphasis on that interior space, technological space, but
Yeah.
also you tend to sit in longer traffic jams than the
Yeah.
rest.
That
And
is
so
true.
you're sitting there for a long time. Indonesia, super wet outside, super hot. You need the darkest glass. You need better air conditioning. You need space for stuff because you're sitting there for a long time. And
Yeah.
so, it's fantastic to sit with the guys, get this feedback, and look at average journey times. You need air filters because the air quality is a different level to California, UK, Germany, France, or Korea.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different scenario there. So those kind of technical changes are really important as well. And then to make sure we have over-the-air updates for our electronics, because there are different apps, there are different user scenarios, all those things. We have an opportunity to be more attractive on the local market side through just listening and understanding and designing the right. I like to call the customer journey. We design the customer journey with the product in digital and physical.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that seems like a more appropriate word because, as you said, yeah, in India the scenario is so different that you need to make a lot of technological changes. That is true.
Well,
Sticking with the
go on, go ahead.
okay, sticking with the the auto sector around the world, we have recently seen another thing that was the specially called as 3D designer or CAD designer. A lot of
Hmm.
jobs have been opening up in the last few years, not just in Europe but also in US as well as around the world, where there are companies are demanding only CAD designers or alias
Yeah,
designers.
yeah.
So, do you think something similar will happen in the future? Let's say 10 years from now, what kind of specialized area in the design would open up?
Oh, I mean, I'm so excited. I mean, firstly, tracking back to when I was a little kid in school and I was designing games on basic programs back then. Now, basic computing, basic language. I was designing computer games. I was so into like graphics and drawing pictures with computers, and this was long time ago, like 80s. And my dream has always been to just be working and not designing in 2D because cars aren't 2D. the cars are 3D. But
Yeah.
so I've dreamt about the virtual space and how we work in the virtual space, and for just blooming ages. And we were, as far as I know, the first company to have a big, like, multi-user wireless remote location virtual design process, where we have a 25 meter by 25 meter empty room which has optical trackers all around, and we can put about maximum 100, but usually we maximum about 20 people in there, wireless goggles, and we're walking around full-size virtual models. And we can connect to any of our studios around the world. They can be in the same space, so they're walking around as avatars in the same room. We started, that was 2017, and so we had the first setup running then, and then established it across our whole network. And we were very fortunate that we were ready for COVID in that respect. We didn't expect COVID to come, but then
Hmm.
all of a sudden we can send all designers home with headsets, with their computers, and we can just connect. And we're sitting doing reviews from wherever people are, sitting on the beach with their laptop and headset. All you have to do is look at the signals. How technology is developing and the software is developing. If you look at that, you can build a picture of the next process. I don't want to give too much away here, but I'm deeply into how we work within the virtual space. And that's something, I urge all designers, you have to be great sketchers. You have to be great at the sections. You have to know the detail of the engineering section, but you have to work in the virtual space. You have to be able to build and walk around and appraise in the virtual space your design. And it could be on a flat screen or working within VR. But that for me is the future. Designers really, and when I moved to Germany 2001, we just got Alias back then into the Bentley studio, and I was really into that, and I wanted to learn how to animate because it's selling your design through storytelling, and that's what we do. And there I was one of the first really really getting into Alias, and it's then you realize the power of the importance of your sketch, that you need to be able to sketch a car in this view, in this view, in this view, in this view, in this view. And if those sketches aren't the same, you will not be able to model it. So you'll go back and resketch it, because if the sketches represent the same car, you can model that car. But I get amused where we chat with our designers. They have this one fantastic sketch, and it has a great view. Turn it around, guys, it's a different car. Tell me how you're going to model that. Now, if you're working in Alias in as a CAD designer, you'll know as you're sketching, I need to make this work in a number of views. So you can iterate it and go forwards, but then do the other view as well. And that's something that I some designers just instantly do it. Me, I love to draw around a car in different perspectives, because then I know it's gonna work when I build it in 3D. And that's it's crucial that you build your competencies as a designer: communication competency, sketch competency, technological understanding, and 3D modeling. But I'd rather call it 3D designing, because we have experts in modeling, and designers will never get the last bit perfect. So you need to be able to do 3D design and build stuff in 3D and design in 3D. And that's something we just don't recruit unless people have that skill or are able to work in the virtual space.
No, yeah, that is true because for 3D designers, they are specially trained to use the software in the most efficient way possible. And if you give them enough data or enough input to help them understand, they can do it quicker basically than anyone else.
Yeah, you need to, as a creative, I'm a firm believer that we should be able to use the tools ourselves
Mhm.
and create stuff. And I'm in my office, I have a VR setup, and I'm working in the virtual space making stuff. And I don't have much time for it, but I do when I can. And that's, I think it's really crucial to understand perspective, proportion, volume, and how it works, and how one view relates to another view. And that's our job. So if you don't want to do it, then do another job.
Now, another thing that I was wondering, since you mentioned the design of Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 and how they're totally different, that they
Yeah.
don't have, a lot of things that are similar, but they have distinct qualities.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about, is it important for design of a particular vehicle, whether it be exterior or interior, to stand out or to blend in? which do you think is a better approach?
Good question. I like that question. I mean, we certainly. I mean, a lot of brands like to design cars that blend into their brand
Hmm.
because their philosophy is like that. Um, I think it's important to create an emotional attraction in whatever you do and have really good technological solutions or customer experience solutions. And so we deliberately want to do something which is noticeable and recognizable. It's identifiable as something else. So I'm certainly not a fan of making things blend in too much. But
Hmm.
I mean, some people might be, but it blends in, then it's forgettable. And the
Yeah.
last thing we want to do is forgettable. I really, really, I love it when something goes past you. Oh, look at that, because it stands out, and then you say why, and then the storytelling is important. So what is the story behind why that stands out in that way? And Ioniq 6, I mean, in this very room where I'm sitting now. I remember the blank sheet of paper briefing for Ioniq 6,
Hmm.
which must have been about April, May time, 2019. And we're in this room, and I printed out sort of 30 or 40 bits of A4 paper, printed out from of efficiency. What does efficiency look like, and how does efficiency work? What is designed to look efficient and it is efficient? And so I started off with a whole load of land speed record cars. And then you get into streamlined trains and planes. You get to the de Havilland Comet with the beautiful streamlined wings. You actually get to Raymond Loewy. You get the Coke
Yeah.
machines and fridges and Coke bottles, and
Yeah.
you get to the Apple mouse, the beautiful mouse. But you get to nature. He had pictures of peregrine falcon, tiny bird, but it reaches 320 kilometers per hour when it's in a dive. And we had dolphins, and in that we chatted. Okay, what is visual efficiency? What is emotional efficiency? So when it goes past, why did it look like that? Because we said we want to make the most aerodynamic car Hyundai's ever done, and we want people to realize that. They look at it and realize, that's doing something different. Why? And so we called it sort of ethical uniqueness. The standing out is the uniqueness. So
Yeah.
it's unique, it stands out. The ethics is that it uses the least energy possible in doing that. So it goes through the air. So for Ioniq 6, we had the whole mantra was ethical uniqueness. And I had a T-shirt made that said zero point 0.1x, which was the goal for the drag coefficient for that car. Now, people say you can't have the goal. We'll never get there. I said I don't care whether we'll get there or not. That's the goal. If we do a stretch goal, you do a flight to Mars, do a moonshot, whatever it is. And I had this T-shirt I was wearing, and then somebody said to me later, you failed. You only got to 0.21. I said, if 2.1's a failure, I'm happy failing any day because we have no active suspension, we have no rise and fall rear spoiler, we have opening flaps on the front. That's it. Everything else is sort of reasonably high ground clearance. We're trying to do it at a cost which is achievable for many customers.
Yeah.
And driving through Seoul at the weekend and people commenting on my car. Probably that didn't happen a few generations ago on Hyundais. And so it should stand out, but it should stand out for a reason, not just for the hell of it. It should be vulgar. It needs to stand out for a grown up reason with a good story. And we basically hijacked the streamliner movement from the 1920s, 30s, 40s, where engineers really started understanding aerodynamics and how to flow through the air. And we so basically hijacked that, extrapolated it now, and said, well, why has nobody done a four door like that? And so we did Ioniq 6, and it is hugely efficient. It has a 100-kilometer range benefit compared to Ioniq 5. And that's with the highest range you can get is like 614 compared to 514. And so, yeah, so it's not just for the sake of it, not just to be loud or not just to be vulgar. It's all about having a good, solid reason for people to believe in. And Ioniq 6, that's what it does.
Yeah, that seems like a good way to go ahead, because if you try to set your goals that are too extreme, you will end up like achieving a goal that is also very significant and very important to have. Even if
Yep.
not what you are trying to do, it's still big enough to make a change to be a disruptor in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, and funny enough, Luke Donkervolker, our chief creative officer, he won Design Disruptor of the Year last week as well from Newsweek in the States. And so and our chairman the year before won it. So we've got we've got a role going here and disrupting how people usually do things. I won't kid you. No, it's we put ourselves under a lot of pressure to do this, the pressure
Yeah,
to challenge, pressure to do things new, and it's. And I remember watching a really great documentary on Netflix, A Coach's Rulebook. Go watch A Coach's Rulebook and watch what Doc Rivers says about his rules for life. And one of them, he said about pressure being a privilege. So he's got the basketball player saying, you're out there, you're under pressure, right? Yeah, but all those people, 80,000 people watching, they would all love to be doing what you're doing. You're in a very privileged situation to do that.
yeah.
And so we like to say we're under a lot of privilege in our situation to have this pressure that we're generating on ourselves to keep going and go further and leave no stone unturned.
No, yeah, pressure is good. Even if like I'm sitting here right now, when I get the assignments for the weekend, I usually get into say like having thoughts that, oh man, this is too much. But then I'm like, nah, I have to do this. I have to finish it.
Yeah, turn it into something you love. I mean, and
Yeah,
get a thrill out of the result, and look at the long term of what you're doing there. I mean, I have to sit down and I was designing some exhibition stuff recently, and you at one time you think, oh man, do I have to do this? But the other, if you don't do it, it's not going to be perfect, and it's
exactly.
a
Yes.
journey to a result. And
Yeah,
if you haven't got that passion, if you don't love it, you'll quit, as Steve Jobs said. You'll just quit because you're not crazy enough to survive through it. So you've got to love it.
yeah, that's true. That is very true, especially in design industry because you have to really admire what you're doing, and you have to just get
And
through it.
I'm a firm believer as well, admiring your competitor too. That we
Yeah,
have so many, I mean, amazing competitors, amazing. I mean, the car design crowd, I mean, we know each other quite well around the world and as well. And so much respect for the work that the guys are doing in all companies, whichever brand. And you can, some companies, some designers are very cynical and critical. Not me. I like to look for the positives in everything. Look for
mhm.
what's good and learn out of that. And I'm a firm believer, and there's good in pretty much everything. And even in the whole design presentation, there's not much great stuff. I'll always find stuff which is the best and push that and take
Yeah,
that further and give everybody a route forwards.
yeah. That seems like a good trait to have because then you'll try to get more advantage of what you already have rather than trying to acquire that what you don't have, and this
Oh,
will
and learn,
yeah.
learn from the. I mean, one of the things I say to our guys always is your biggest friend as a designer is the car park. Go to the car park and look at how everybody else has solved that problem. Because usually you're not the first person with that problem.
No, no,
Somebody else has been there, solved it, and when somebody tells you, "Oh, it's not possible," take them to the car park and show, "Well, they've done it."
hmm
And they must have, if it's in production now, they probably sold it 5 years ago, and you're telling me we can't do it for 5 years' time? And so it's a big friend, the car park, and look at and respect and see how people have solved stuff and keep your eyes open. Not only cars, products, technical, electronic products, product design, furniture design, architectural design. Eyes open for everything. Your inspirations all around.
yeah. No, that's a big thing. Even if I'm here in Turin, Italy, which is like a center of the Italian automotive design, I constantly go out and just look for something that really helps stand out than the bunch of it, even if it's so
Yeah,
simple or so complex. It
yeah.
gives a little inspiration.
Well, it's. I mean, there as well, where you are in Turin. There, I'm lucky enough. I spent a number of weeks working with Tom Jada back in the. I think that was the '80s as well. Wow. Yeah, before I went to the Royal College of Art, and he said I could come to his studio, Dimensioni Design. Tom Jada, who was De Tomaso designer Pantera, and I hung out with him for 5 weeks, and the attention, the quality of execution and when I'm talking quality of execution, I'm just talking what you learn having a cup of espresso and the quality of the espresso coffee and the temperature of the water and the beans, how well ground they are, and then watching him spoon sugar in. But the quality of execution, the cups are preheated. The attention to detail is so good. Don't lose that attention to detail. Often
Yeah.
designers are the ones who say, oh, wait a second, that's not right. Dig in and ask why not. Just ask why not and find out why and draw the section and learn out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good approach, obviously. And yeah, as you said, attention to detail. Even if it's like a small thing, let's say, I don't know, a water bottle. The attention to
Yep.
detail to things such as grip or the bottle opener.
I, there you go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
these things matter because this will eventually increase the customer experience that the user will have, and
Yep.
would just give them a little bit more satisfaction knowing that they have purchased a good product.
It's the customer satisfaction there is the sum of lots of little points that builds up to a big impression.
Yeah,
And all those little things can make a difference. And if it's the other way, if it's annoying,
it will just become more
they'll
annoying.
tell 100 people.
Yeah,
If it's good, they'll tell 10 people. Annoying, they'll tell 100, or they'll blog about it. It goes to 1,000 people or more. And so we really have to focus on this.
yeah. Especially we are living in the internet age. It really spreads
Yep.
very quickly, very very quick.
Instant bad news is that everywhere very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. This that's all the things that I wanted to talk to you about. Have
There
your
you
opinion.
go.
Get on. And do you have some advice for the students who are currently aspirers or learning right now?
Of course. I mean, we've it seems like a long time ago when I was at the RCA, but first one, just ask. Ask questions, lots of questions. Ask why. Ask why not. Um, Never underestimate yourself. Write to everybody. All they can do is say no. If you're looking for a job, if they give you even the slightest opening, don't even ask for a job. Just ask if you can see somebody, show your portfolio. Um, as a student, you've the world's out there, but when you put your portfolio together, don't put everything in your folio.
Mhm.
Only choose your best three projects. Don't put every project to when you started to your first semester. Um, just put the best stuff in. Because if you put a portfolio which has got the early stuff, you can create uncertainty because it isn't as good as your latest stuff.
Mhm.
The uncertainty can crop up, and you see somebody. If I see that, it's like, oh, I see a great project and then an average project. So put your best stuff in and reduce because the people you're writing to haven't got so much time usually.
No.
You go through it quickly. It's like wow, and if it's 5 pages of awesome stuff, or there's 15 with some average stuff, the 5 pages with awesome is always going to win. So I want
Yeah.
to see this guy because everything he sent or she sent is fantastic. So, keep challenging. Ask, do you believe something? If you look at the signals, do you believe in that, whatever you're working on? Do you truly believe in the story you're trying to tell? Um, and then I think probably ask yourself the question. When you said Manav earlier, you said make it stand out.
Mhm.
Does it stand out? Have you seen that before? You really question yourself. Is it good? Does it do something new that you've never seen before? And if it doesn't, don't put it in your portfolio or change it. So really challenge yourself to come up with something fresh and new, and realize that you're going to keep on learning every day. You build your competencies, build a set of competencies, and you'll keep improving them. But the one to get through the door is your pure design competency. So proportion, proportion, and package the layout. If you're working on a car, then make the package look right. Study packages, compare packages. You don't just build your own package from nothing. Online, you can find enough packages of cars. Take one of those as a benchmark and adjust that because you'll get closer to the solution because that package has been really well worked out by a lot of people over generations, probably. So keep your eyes open to that kind of thing too, to look at comparisons and learn. I mean, I started my portfolio by copying other design renderings to learn how people had done those renderings, and
Mhm.
and learn by looking and respectfully interpreting in your way, but never try and hide it as your work. If you've taken something, I was inspired by this. Take the inspiration, talk about the inspiration, and develop it further. So, yeah, there's a few tips from my side about if you're a student at the moment, love it, enjoy it. Write to me if you want some advice or you're looking for a job. We have studios all over the world, but send me stuff you've never seen before.
All right, all right, all right.
Instagram, Simon Loasby Soul, just connect, and there you go.
Will do. Will do. I'll definitely
Great
engage
stuff.
you in the future once I'm done building my portfolio. I would like
There
to
you
have
go.
your review on it. Definitely.
All right, great. It's really good to talk to you, man. I've
Thanks. Thank you. And it was really great to talk to you as well. And with
great.
that, I would like to end this podcast. My name is Manoj Ithani, and we had Simon Loasby with us here. Peace out. Like, share, and subscribe.